Whelan Presley Funeral Home and Crematory have been serving Quad City families and veterans since 1889. Whelan Presley Funeral Homes are located in Rock Island, Milan, and Reynolds, and are proud supporters of WQPT. Alternatives is a proud supporter of WQPT and has been serving our community for 40 years. Alternatives provides professional guidance to maintain independence and quality of life for older adults and adults with disabilities.
A Western Illinois lawmaker is to take over a major position of power in the state legislature. We have an extended interview with the new Republican Minority Leader, Representative Tony McCombie, on the cities. The party in power can do a lot, and Democrats have a lot of power in Illinois. But there is something called the loyal opposition, the party that's not in power but is still doing its best to craft laws that help protect minority viewpoints and moderate the impulses of the majority party. Republicans have selected Savannah Republican Tony McCombie to be the new minority leader in the House. It is an important position and could bring benefits with it to northwestern Illinois. The new House Minority Leader sat down with us to talk about her priorities now that the legislature is in session. Elected Minority Leader for the Illinois House. What does that role entail? I mean, how important is that position?
Well, it's pretty important, I would say. Yeah. It's twofold. It's going to be it's signaling a change. We have had the same leadership for 9 years in the House. With this election cycle. This is how it all came about. And so I think just to have a new perspective is one thing. To have a woman's perspective will be another thing. And it's time. It's time for us to try something different.
I did want to point out the obvious is that it is, a woman that's in this leadership role is not something we've necessarily seen that often in Illinois politics in the legislature.
Not in the House. We did have on the Senate side Christine Radonio. So she was there, but there hasn't been a female Dem or Republican. So yeah, that definitely is new.
The other thing is the geography, of course. You're going to be in a powerful position representing Northwest Illinois. What do you see that as an impact?
Well, my location has always been a challenge for where I live. I remember when I first ran for state rep, they're like, well, somebody from the smallest, most northern part can't win this district. And so
because of the Quad City factor.
And just how do you get around your district, right, when you're at the most northern part. Now with the new map, I'm at the most western part to serve the 89th district. So I'm like, I'm used to that. I'm used to that travel time, 4 counties to 7. Well, now it's funny because you see articles and it says, we haven't had a downstater in this position, male or female.
Right.
So, how is that going to work? What's the perspective? I'm putting on some serious miles for sure. I used to say I'm going to Springfield and I'd visit on my way through my district. Now I'm on my way to Chicago visiting my district that way. So it all ends up working out. To go down south, I think, is a hardship for anybody, whether you live anywhere in the state, because our state is so huge.
Right.
So I'll just be a good manager of my time and make sure to meet as many people as I can.
But I'm just thinking, like, as a minority leader, there's a certain there's responsibilities, of course, and there's added power, and you're going to do it from the perspective of a Northern Illinois lawmaker, and you're also going to represent with a stronger voice the needs of this area.
Yeah, I think sometimes we have some, in our rural areas where we don't overthink things. I don't want to say it's a difference of common sense, but I think we just look at things through a different light. We don't try to find ways to say no, we try to find ways to make things happen.
But the power center for the Republican Party in a lot of ways was those collar counties around Chicago. And now and then a vast majority, of course, of central and southern Illinois, but the power always seemed to be in the Chicago area. Is this good to have broken this?
Well, the map certainly didn't help the geographic layout for the suburbs, for sure. DuPage County has been horrible, but people have also been migrating out of the city and going into the suburbs. So they're bringing their politics with. So that does make some changes there. You know, I think it is time for us to, well, it's long overdue time. We have folks in the suburbs, they need to know that they have a choice. And when you're outspent 20-1 in an election cycle, it's hard to sell any brand with that kind of money being spent. So it's going to take a lot of work. You know, we are for, you know, working people, working class. We want to serve the most vulnerable with good programs. They just need to know there is a choice, and that's long overdue too, because a lot of folks just go right down the ticket, and that shouldn't be that way.
So what's your biggest priority right now? What do you want to see in this coming session?
Well, the session priority may be a little bit different. Overall priority would be, and same thing that we've been talking about since we first met, is we need to bring more balance to the House and the Senate. When you only have 40 Republicans out of 118 House seats, that's brutal. That's bad for Republicans, that's bad for Democrats, that's bad for independents. So we need to definitely bring more balance. And how are we going to do that? Well, one, we're going to have to work hard. We're going to have to get really good candidates that want to work hard and that are willing to show voters that there is a contrast, so they do have a choice. Stick to the issues at hand, and to message that properly. In Springfield for this legislative session, I think we'll probably be playing defense a lot. I am going to be meeting with Speaker Welch this week, and I'm interested to see what his goals are. Talk about having to keep together a caucus. He's going to have to be a really good ringleader to keep everybody happy. You have several caucuses within the main caucus. So I think hearing what his goals are or what he wants to do, and then see how we can work with him on those issues. Obviously, we'll probably not work on some things with them because they'll go against, you know, conservative values and issues. But where can we work together? And let's start there.
You have been a veteran now of the legislature for a few years. You were there during the Madigan years. Now that he's gone, now that you're minority leader, it's really a sea change in the Illinois legislature.
Absolutely.
So have you seen the impact with Madigan being gone? And do you think that the impact of you being the minority leader is going to just further the progress?
I think anybody that's down there would say with Madigan gone, there's not that control for his caucus, for our process as a whole in the House. You can certainly tell that. A lack of organization. Yeah, there's some issues there, but that also could be because of their numbers increasing. You know, you have more people to manage. I don't know, but I don't think Madigan would have drawn a map like this. Too many people to put together.
Let's talk about some of the issues that are coming out. Of course, the budget issue is always big. Do you think that this election emboldened the Pritzker administration to continue the course that it's going on right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And what does that say?
It says that we're probably going to have a lot more spending. It says that the money that's been coming to us through the federal government is going to be stopping. How do you roll back that spending that you've started? Does that mean that he's going to, you know, go again for a graduated income tax? He says no, but in the scheme of things, he doesn't have to vote for it. That can come on through the House and the Senate through a constitutional question. He doesn't have to sign it, so that gives him that freedom. You know, there is the rumors of whether or not he's going to run for president. Right. Certainly it looks like it is. I mean, he's hitting all of the big national issues. So, yeah, like this session alone, you know, when and I think we were going to talk about it, HB 5855, the gun legislation.
Exactly.
I think that's the last thing for him to hit all of his big hits. So I'm a little nervous about how far left he'll take Illinois, because ultimately we are, if you look at a map, we're more purple than we are blue. So I mean, he has to be aware of that too.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that. Major changes, well, about reproductive rights, and also major changes in regards to crime and safety. And as you brought up, perhaps a ban on assault rifles and weaponry, changes in the gun law. How far do you think you're willing to go?
Well, the HB 5855, we're actually going to be hearing in committee tomorrow, and this will be the third time. The first two were really victims that were coming, so we, of course, we're respectful of that. Can't imagine having to go through anything like that. But 5855 is pretty extreme. I don't think even Republicans that believe in parts of the bill, I think just because of the constitutionality of it, they would be a no vote on that. And it's going to put some of their members in a really bad spot because of that. Also, it's probably going to be shot down in the courts. As soon as it passes, it'll go.
Talk about the Safety Act, safety law, actually.
Yeah.
Democrats sound like they want to go in and make some revisions and corrections. You didn't like it in the first place.
No, I didn't. And here you have a 700-page bill that we passed in a wee hours when we're all exhausted, going a different route than even some of the task force had wanted to do. And then now we have the fourth trailer that just passed during veto session that's 300 pages. So, I mean, just common sense tells you you have a 700-page bill and then you have to have a 300-page fix, right? And even during questioning, when I questioned the sponsor about having victims go before their assailants, whether, who knows what it is, rape, domestic violence, within 48 hours to have to go and face the person that just destroyed your life, is really an inappropriate, and I don't think was the intent, but I brought that up and I'm like, you don't think that's appropriate? And they said no. Well, this is the fourth fix. Why are we not fixing that piece? So there's definitely things we're going to have to fix. We're hearing from our counties already. What does weekend court mean? What does that mean for costs? That's going to be increasing property taxes. That's going to be, there's no funding on that part of it. There's not enough funding in the grant for law enforcement. So we have a lot to do, and I'm afraid when the data starts coming in and when crimes increase, we're going to see some changes again.
But when you're talking about seeing some changes in this area, you're going to need to work with Republicans, and it sounds like Democrats don't necessarily need to do that.
Oh, no, they don't. And we actually brought that up. We're like, so in the House today, we have Leader Jim Durkin and Representative Patrick Windhorst, who are probably the most knowledgeable in the House. And when they're not asked to be at the table to even give input, regardless of how they vote, but what are the legalities of how the language is written? Why would you not utilize
people who are prosecutors, people who have experience in law enforcement?
I mean, I feel really blessed. We do have a diverse caucus when it comes to differences of employment, and we should utilize that whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, whether you're in the House or whether you're in the Senate. And oftentimes, the majority just sees it their way and it's their way only, and then that's when you come back with a 300-page fix.
Education funding has always been a priority, of course, and Illinois has been putting more money towards education, and also the effort to get it off the backs of property tax owners. What more has to be done in this area?
Well, again, we're learning a little bit more now about the evidence-based funding model, and that maybe throwing more money at it isn't solving the issues. I just posted something on my Facebook the other day. Several small communities, Savannah being one of, West Carroll being one of them, all around are having their hearings to raise their taxes, their tax rate. So it's not fixing that problem, that's for sure. So we do need to analyze and make sure that we're putting the money in the right places. We spend a lot of money on public education, and we should, right? But when we're not seeing results, even with the report card, when you have 3rd to 8th grade with true reading issues, something's happening that we need to fix.
How much of that do you think is all pandemic related as well?
I think it's certainly partial.
Yeah,
for sure. How is it not? I mean, right, when you're not in school actively reading, but it's also how, even today I hear differences that superintendents want in how teachers teach to read. And we might see a couple bills this year to help with that too, because they're not coming into the schools when they get their degree and able to quickly jump right in.
And that seems to be a huge issue. I mean, just getting more teachers qualified, getting them qualified quicker. I mean, the state has tried to do that.
Yeah, you know, the state of Illinois is really great about raising additional mandates and more regulations, making it harder to be a realtor, to be a teacher, to be a nurse, everything. You know, it's law enforcement. And then you end up rolling it back. And it's always on the idea of making the profession better and making it stronger, but oftentimes it has a reverse effect.
How do you correct that?
Reverse it.
Exactly. But it seems like, talking to you, is that the real reality is that we can't do anything. We just don't have enough members.
Well, we don't have enough for a vote.
You can be the loyal opposition if you're allowed to have a say, like you said, at the table, just that your viewpoint could be heard and constructive criticism is not bad.
Absolutely. And people always say, you know, the Republicans in Illinois or Republicans in the nation are the party of no. I don't want us to be the party of no. I want us to be the party of problem solvers. And when we are asked, we are able to do that. You know, there's several of us that don't have the arrogance in our position to say, okay, our idea is a great idea. We take it as a compliment when a Democrat steals that bill and we pass it. Mm-hmm. You know, we do, but some don't. And that's where we kind of have to get over that a little bit. They do have the majority, and until the voters realize that they have a choice, that there is a common sense avenue for them to go, what's going to affect their pocketbook, especially their pocketbook, then we're going to see a change in Illinois.
So you campaigned in a new district. I mean, it's not the same geography that it was before. Through that campaign, what did you learn? I mean, what have you really heard from people that you hadn't heard from in the past?
Well, this is a little bit more, well, first off, I'd much rather run against a Democrat than a Republican. I know that, because I didn't have that. I had a primary this time. So that's not great. Not that I appreciated, but everybody should have a choice. And that's the other thing about the maps. When they're not drawn to have a choice, that's bad for the voters too. But back to the question, it's really more of there's a lot more farms, that's for sure.
Because I was going to ask you about rural issues.
My largest city, I believe, is Genoa, and it's like 5,000 people. That's my biggest city. So it will definitely be different, but I also understand it. I come from a small community where our main street has vacancies. We have all the infrastructure issues. We have all the same. So it was. I don't want to say fun, but it was kind of fun to kind of put my old mayor hat back on and talk to the mayors and city leaders, because we're all having the same issues. And then it's like, how do you fix those, right? Well, I know this really great grant writer. I know this avenue or this engineering company. So it's great to be helpful to those small communities again.
What's your biggest priority as a lawmaker, not necessarily as a minority leader? What's your biggest priority for this coming session? What do you really hope to accomplish?
Well, I got to tell you, I've got to pass Pam's bill.
Every time we talk to you, you mention it, and for good reason. And we always talk about this. Why does this not pass? Why does this not get through the legislature? So tell me about the latest progress on that.
Well, we did get it past the House, and then it stalled in the Senate. And then, unfortunately, Deidre Silas was murdered in Springfield. And then
there was a renewed attention.
There was, and there was 2 Democrats wanting to carry it, one in the Senate and one in the House. And they changed it just a little bit, which I was fine with, because we could still work on the Department of Aging piece of it, but it never went anywhere. It just stalled again. And I don't know why we cannot convince the majority party that this is not a penalty enhancement. It is the way the law should have been written initially.
And let's point out what the law is for those that don't know. It is more severe penalties for people who do attack. In this case,
DCFS worker.
But also there's other workers as well.
Yeah, for me is Department of Aging. So if you're an investigator for senior abuse, you know, those folks are also put in vulnerable positions as well. But the law reads, if you're a teacher, if you're a janitor in a school, if you're a fireman, for some reason years ago when they changed that law, they just were forgotten, Department of Aging and DCFS workers. It just was a mistake. So I would call it a very simple cleanup bill. and they just continue to fight it, and I don't know why. But in this position, if I can't pass that bill, there's going to be some big problems.
Yeah, because that seems to be, I mean, with your new prominence and power and this bill that's been languishing for 3 years, 4 years?
No, since it was right after I got elected. So it's, and shame on the House and the Senate. I mean, this poor family every year goes through this, and so yeah, that is going to be my personal #1 goal. Obviously, I'd love to see a better budget, a budget that doesn't have a lot of fluff, and certainly one that doesn't have taxes.
Do you think there's going to be a huge impact when you're talking about the budget? I mean, you look at Iowa that has done very well, and Illinois that's been able to pay its bills, but it's because of a huge influx of federal money that isn't going to continue.
Yeah, that's right. And the other part of that, with that influx of money, is one, you just delayed paying the UI trust, the unemployment trust fund, which ended up costing us millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. When if you just paid the bill on time, it would have saved us, right? Those are the common sense things that people don't talk about. And then the governor comes in and celebrates paying the bill. Well, but you forgot to mention, yeah, it's good that we paid the bill, but if we would have paid it a year ago,
sooner,
it would have saved us a ton of money. So we have to be worried about that. I'm just worried, even outside of that bill, all of the new programs that have started, how do you shut them down now, right? And where are you going to get that money? Well, the money comes from us. And if people do migrate out of the state, there's less of us to pay the bill. So what does that mean? It means our taxes go up regardless. I'm also afraid that they will come back with the graduated income tax fight again, even though the voters were very clear in how they spoke about it. I remember right after Kim Reynolds, she did the rebuttal to the State of the State, and I said
State of the Union.
State of the Union.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Right. And she talked about going to the flat tax and not taxing retirement. And I thought, these are the two things Illinois has that Iowa doesn't, and now we're going to have that issue. And I stood up on the floor and said, before we get started here, I'm sure you maybe didn't see that piece of it, but let's think about when we're passing legislation to put mandates and things on residents, what we're doing. Very first bill, Jim, was let's mandate electric car hookups in new builds. Very first one after I said that. So it's just like we as legislators and policymakers have got to think about what is literally best for the residents and not what's best for advocates.
Illinois House Minority Leader, Republican State Representative Tony McCombie. We hope you're enjoying the winter weather that makes January so special. Laura Adams has got some great plans for you if you're ready to go out and about.
This is Out and About for January 12th through 20th. Ice Stravaganza, the family-friendly outdoor winter event, returns January 13th through 15th at the Freight House and LeClaire Park from 10 to 10 each day. The Mirza Jazz Residency perform a free concert at 7 at the Orpheum Theater in Galesburg featuring Knox College performers along with guest artists and a performance by the Miguel Zenon Quartet. The Music of Friendship, a chamber music concert by musicians from the Clinton Symphony Orchestra, takes place on the 15th at 2 at Zion Lutheran Church in Clinton, and auditions for rock musical Rock of Ages take place at the Black Box Theater on the 14th from 12:30 to 3. Circa 21 opens their newest show, We Will Rock You, on January 18th, featuring more than 20 hits by Queen. The Adler Theater hosts Stomp, an unforgettable experience for audiences of all ages on the 19th at 7:30. The Bucktown Review takes the stage at Davenport Junior Theater on the 20th at 7. Guests include Tobin Kirk, folk group The Carefree Highwaymen, and others. The Nightcaps Improv Comedy Troupe presents Shots and Giggles at the Speakeasy in Rock Island. Their next show is the 14th at 8, while Comedy Sports perform at the Spotlight on Fridays and Saturdays. Mike Conrad and the Iowa Jazz Composers Orchestra perform at Rivermont on the 15th from 5 to 7. For more information, visit WQPT.org.
Thank you, Laura. Mo Carter has been hitting the stages around the cities these days, and you can catch her at Steventon's, Faithful Pilot, Front Street Tap Room, and other venues. We caught up with her when she played one of her originals on the stage of Moline's Black Box Theater. So here's Mo Carter with Crumbled.
your brilliance in every way, a constant reminder, as it's always on display, thinking if I try harder, I could be simply better, but that's not the case for me, so I crumble, just like you knew I would, and I crumble so beautifully, and I crumble into the sea, and I crumble. And I crumble, oh, into the sea, and I crumble.
Mo Carter with Crumbled performed at the Black Box Theater in Moline. On the air, on the radio, on the web, on your mobile device, and streaming on your computer, thanks for taking some time to join us as we talk about the issues on the cities.
Whelan Presley Funeral Home and Crematory have been serving Quad City families and veterans since 1889. Whelan Presley Funeral Homes are located in Rock Island, Milan, and Reynolds, and are proud supporters of WQPT. Alternatives is a proud supporter of WQPT and has been serving our community for 40 years. Alternatives provides professional guidance to maintain independence and quality of life for older adults and adults with disabilities.